Today, the stock market took a slide, and when we look specifically at semiconductors like AMD, NVDA, AVGO, the rest of the names, it was an absolute bloodbath. We saw NVIDIA have pretty stellar earnings, yet they dropped $11 and 8.5% give or take on the day, and that's not even at lows. You saw an absolute massacre of selling, but the question is why? And it goes back into what we talked about yesterday, and it's worth mentioning. If the president says he's going to implement tariffs, it's highly likely that he probably continues to talk about them. Now, what I will say is we've talked a little bit about these tariffs, and Trump did say initially, right? I'll be straightforward, right? I'll tell you my honest opinion. He said he's going to do a 25% tariff on auto, pharmaceuticals, and chips, but he was pretty vague with the chips. He was like, you know what? We might wait on those things, right? Not looking so good. Today, Trump went back. Doubled up, say, guess what? We're doing an extra 10% tariff for China. We're going 10%, so it's a 20% tariff on China. We're going our tariffs on Mexico and Canada. He said, guys, guess what? Y'all said they were going to clean up these borders. It was going to be nice. Don't care. Tariffs for you, and you. That's what Trump did really today. And again, as long as we continue talking about these tariffs, as long as tariffs are the focal point of the market, you're going to see more downside. Now, it'll take some time before it hits the market directly, but this is the market preparing for it. So it's really like two waves to really think about what's happening there as far as tariffs are concerned with everything in general. So again, when we look at NVIDIA stock and what's happening there, what did we say has to happen to be bullish? Well, you didn't do it, but we'll talk about it, right? Number one, you're still clearly making those lower highs, as you can see right here on higher time frames. Now, to be bullish, like for anything here, you had to get back above your 100-day moving average, which we've talked clearly about in yesterday's video. You couldn't even do that. So again, before market open, we reject and we push down. Now, this is where things got spicy. Even if you didn't short at highs on the day, which I'll tell you right now, I did not. I was very clear with what I was looking for. The break of the 200 daily moving average. This is your big dog, if you will. This is the big boy. And if you hold below this, sellers get aggressive. So we've seen us trying to hold this level overall. And then today we break, retest, and then just die. And this was the focal point of the day. Now, also too, guys, if you are interested, right, you're trying to see what I'm doing every day, trades I'm looking at, everything like that, Discord might be for you. The past 3 days, it's really been Tesla, NVIDIA, Tesla, NVIDIA, Tesla, NVIDIA. And that's really what we traded. So again, Jordan today runs everything with me. He talked about going short on NVIDIA. And I was like, look, buddy, you're totally onto something here. You're keeping me, I'm on my toes. So I said, we're going 330, 335 a contract. Those things by the end of the day, we're sitting at 675 a contract. Absolute explosion. So congratulations, everyone holding on to those things. They went parabolic. They went crazy. We also shorted Apple, a few other names in here as well. So it was all there, right? Tesla again this morning. So pretty easy. But again, if you're interested, the link is down below. Take advantage if you want. Okay. But we also have Twitter. So I recommend following on Twitter for free indicators and things like that. I'm constantly posting on there as well, as far as here as well. So again, NVIDIA dropping down. Now giving you overall supports, what I'm looking at here on NVIDIA. Okay. I'll be very clear, very transparent. Like, let's not overcomplicate this. So it's not rocket science. You're going to find support down here between 118, 115. It's where you bounced at, late January. Makes logical sense. That's where buyers are going to try to show up here. If you start to put in a lower low underneath 113, so help me God, this is going to get ugly. Again, you might start coming back down towards 107, 108, and then down to $99, $100. Now, where things get even more interesting is we start looking at names like AMD. And this is, like I said, terrifying. Because again, AMD, I mentioned it here. I was like, hey, if I'm going to buy AMD, I'll probably end up buying this thing, give or take, around $100. That's where I would like to start buying this. And now that we're here, I kind of don't want it, to be totally honest. If we're dipping across the board, AMD is not the name that I want to buy. The analogy I always use is you go into a candy store. There's chocolate. There's top of the line. You got some Reese's. You got Twix, right? We'll say Reese's. Top dog, obviously, is NVIDIA. You got Twix. It's a solid candy bar, right? It's AVGO, right? You can get LRCX over there, little Snickers. But then in the corner on the ground, you have just a mound of kitty shit. And the kitty shit is AMD. Because AMD, no one wants it. It's terrible. It's over the past 6 months, it's gone just nothing but down. It's just awful. They don't make any extra money. They don't grow. We don't really know. They're the biggest letdown of all time, right? They're like this year's Jets. We don't know what happened. They were supposed to be good. They're terrible. Okay. Shout out to Aaron Rodgers. But that's what AMD is doing. And I look at AMD as a whole and I'm like, dear God, I mean, you're at support, but I don't know what to do here. So, worth mentioning, AMD's at support, but it just goes down. There's no sign of buyers. There's no telltale sign. I mean, you have a support down here at $93, $94 as well. Be careful. I just want to give you an update on AMD because I'm not buying it here. I can't. If it's between buying NVIDIA at 120 or buying AMD at 100, I'm buying NVIDIA every single time at 120. Right? I just can't do it. The other thing I want to say here too is everyone keeps talking about you found a bottom, you're finding a bottom, you're doing a bottom, they're bottom. I don't. If I hear bottom one more time, I might lose my mind. Right? So taking everything off the chart, in order to find a bottom, and again, it's worth mentioning, you still really haven't dropped. I want that to be very clear here as well. All things considered, we have not dumped, we have not dropped. This isn't very concerning as a whole. And I wouldn't be that concerned, right? Just yet. Now, there's some big warning signs coming up that I think are oh God, this could get terrifying. But I want to be very clear. You're still at your 200 SMA, which you came back down here in last August, September, you bounced, etc. Right? You've been here before, you have bounced, right? Now this is uglier, but again, you're getting below it right now, and we'll talk more about it. Also, you're just basically at lows from pre-election, right? And where you were back in early January. So again, I'm not saying that you look good because you don't, but the drop really hasn't started. So if this drop really starts, and again, you're at a major support down here now, this is going to get ugly quick. You're going to start falling. This is going to start really dropping. I mean, your next major line of defense here on NASDAQ is down here near 20,200, 20,400. So again, that's another 300, 400 point drop. And then after that, it gets ugly, right? So these are things we have to start talking about. I mean, we start talking about previous highs from last February. And I'm like, dear God, I don't want to talk about that yet, but we got to prepare for the worst, right? And so if that happens, names like NVIDIA are probably going to get hit, AMD, etc. And it all comes back down to these tariffs and how this really affects us. Because now we're basically getting into this where we're saying, okay, look, if they keep putting tariffs on us, then we're just going to hammer more tariffs and reciprocal tariffs on them. And it's a back and forth, and no one really wins in the short term. And I don't think Trump really cares if we lose in the short term because his eye is down the line. Again, it's the first 3 months of his presidency, 2 months of his presidency. He's playing the long game here. And I think eventually this could work out to really help inflation get out of this sticky situation. It might put some initial pain on the market. But again, I don't think he's thinking, okay, let's just get inflation handled by the end of the year. Inflation's already here. He has to just do what he has to do as of right now. So again, as I look at NVIDIA weakening, as long as you're below this 200 SMA at 126, you are looking at downside. You're not looking good. Okay, I want to be very clear about that. Also on top of this, Apple. Apple was one of your best looking names. We talked about this yesterday. Killing it. This whole dip, Apple was your dark horse that just wouldn't let us down. And then yesterday, or Tuesday, the market starts bouncing, and we saw NVIDIA going up. We saw everything going up, and Apple just died. And we're like, what's going on here, Apple? Do something. And you didn't really do anything on Apple, and you just continue to see weakness here. Apple is getting the retest of that previous high here as well, around 237, 238. Again, another concern for me now, because if you start to flip back below this and you get back below the 100 MA here, yes, you point to more weakness, back down to that 100 or 200 SMA down there, 226, 225 roughly, and again, more selling occurs. Again, when I'm looking at the overall market, if these three names are moving together in a direction, for me, it's concerning. Apple, NVIDIA, AVGO. When these move together in one direction, it's either really good or really bad. And what you saw the past 24 hours basically of trading is they all moved together to the downside. AVGO, you had a very good bounce from NVIDIA earnings into 218, 219. If you were in Discord, you heard this as well in voice chat this morning. We said the 218 rejection. This thing surprised me and dipped down to 197 by the end of the day. Yes, extremely, extremely concerning. Now, we go through other Mag 7 names that were looking better. Like, I mean, Amazon was looking piss poor. Then they've had really good news over the past 48 hours. They're bouncing, but now they're getting back below the 100 MA. And again, this is a lot of weakness. Again, a lot of weakness here. Below the 100 MA, you're looking down to 198. The point of the story is the more you look at these, the more you're like, okay, you've just broken major supports across the board. As you break these supports, what do we know? You start breaking those major levels, you start seeing quicker moves in specific directions. And that's the concern that I'm having right now, is you've already seen these levels break. And if you were going to bounce, I think today was kind of the day you needed to do it after NVIDIA's earnings, after these other good, I mean, you even had Snow and Cloud Names moving really good in the after hours last night. They couldn't hold up. And that was the problem. And I mean, you go back into NASDAQ and really take a look here as well. And again, you're just rejecting at your 100 MA over and over and just dumping. And right now in the after hours, what do you see on NASDAQ? A break, a retest of the 200. And if this rejects here, it's going to get aggressive very quickly. The other part of this is the Dow, which I've been talking a lot about. And I think the Dow might just be getting started. This starts to lose 43,290. It's not going to be pretty. You're going to drop quickly to the downside. So again, I'm not trying to scare people, fear people out, but I'm just saying where you're at right now and what I'm looking at, the worries in my head, how I'm looking at trading this, what I'm looking at going forward. You know, another big area here too, Bitcoin, very weak. Sitting to the 200 SMA, it's a good sign. This is where you wanted to see. If you want to get a bounce, this is where you want to be. But again, we're not seeing the best buying showing up here. So these are the concerns, what I'm looking at. You know, when I look at an area like semis, and again, the question is like, do you buy the dip here? That's the $1 million question I'm probably going to get. Is Tyler, do I buy the dip? Do I go heavy? And I'm just looking at it and I just don't see buyers yet. If NVIDIA gets back above the 200 SMA, I'm inclined to buy NVIDIA. AMD here. I wanted to have a better feeling about buying this. I wanted to see a reaction to $199, but you're not getting one. And I just don't like it. You look at AVGO, like I mentioned there a second ago, just breaking below. I mean, you just went right below your 100 MA today, just right below. I mean, you might get back above it tomorrow. We'll see. But as of right now, you just don't look good. You look at SMH, the semiconductor ETF. I mean, 6% down on the ETF on the day. So again, across the board, very worrisome here. If I'm looking to buy anything, the only name I'm looking to buy in semis right now is the strongest. It's the top dog. It's the winning racehorse, right? That's NVIDIA. Now, again, people are going to might hate me for it. I don't know. I just talk about what I'm doing, what I'm looking at. And if I'm buying anything, I probably want to buy some time so I don't get spooked out of a position. But the biggest sign of what you're looking for right now is, can these names get back above their major moving averages? The 200, the 100. That's what you're really looking for. Because if you don't get that, you're going to see continued downside. And I will say, the other part of this is I don't think Trump eases up on tariff talk. And you're also seeing it from the Fed. Like, this is very important. I mean, the Fed just talked about it, right? Posted this on Twitter earlier. I mean, this is crazy. This not what you want to see. Over the longer run, the economy can adapt to higher interest rates. That is not bullish, right? Do we need to adapt to 6% being the lowest that we're going to get on mortgage rates? I'm just saying the market isn't going to thrive off that. So you're not getting help from the Fed. You're not getting help from Trump. There's none of these areas that are helping right now. And earnings aren't saving you. So that's the concern. That's the problem with where you're at. I'll keep you updated. If I start seeing buying opportunities, obviously I'll swoop in. I'll start attacking these. As of right now, biggest opportunities out there right now, I think AVGO might get hit. I think it's really likely. I think AVGO as a whole, I'm looking at gap. It's gap fill time now on AVGO. I know people are going to be like, Tyler, are you crazy? You're short in AVGO? I think AVGO down to 187 is in play. Maybe even down to 178 to 200 SMA. That is in play. The Dow, DIA, YM, major in play. The downside opportunity. You finally get some big swings coming up here, right? We talked about MicroStrategy. That was an absolute banger. But now you're getting other big opportunities as well that I'm liking, that I'm watching like a hawk. Again, big setups. Sometimes you got to take a little risk, right? You gotta take a little leap of faith on these leaps, right? What you're trying to do here. So again, my vision, what I'm doing overall in the market, what I'm looking at, the opportunities in front of us, how I'm trying to navigate this. If you have questions, comment down below. If you have questions, ask on Twitter too. It's easier for me to respond, post charts, things like that on Twitter. And 90% of the time, if you have a question, someone else has the same question, same thought. So again, I appreciate you. Follow for more content. Have a good one, traders.